Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, my first ever LARP event is still, I think, my favorite I ever went to. So it was in Illinois. This was back when I was still in Toledo. It was called War. Now, War was only a 1 day event. Like we ended up getting a weekend off, so a bunch of us ended up staying at a hotel overnight because it wasn't fun to drive to Illinois and then back, and just not fun to do in a day. But War was awesome. So the idea behind it, and the pretty much the sole idea, is that it was a just a 1 day capture the flag, and it was all that was that day. And it was so much fun because they were like, you were in a really good sized park, so you had a whole bunch of different paths you could take to try and get to their flag. I got stuck in two really awesome skirmishes that I still look back on as some of my favorites. The first one was I got caught in a skirmish in the woods. It was myself and my unit at that point, which is, I think there were about seven of us, against a group of about 15, and we won, which was cool. But we were just like, we ended up using the terrain to our advantage. Like, we took the path because we were defending at that point, and the area around it was a little too wooded for anyone to really get in there effectively, because you didn't really have space to swing their weapons. So we ended up holding the line there for a good long while. Like we beat that initial group of 15. We certainly had some losses, but we beat that initial group of 15, and then another group of like 10 came through, and we got eight of them, but two of them got through our line, and we ended up dying. But we held that area for like 20 minutes. That was so cool. The other really fun part was there was a little pond, and I got caught in a line battle at the pond. It was myself. I had a shield at that point, and one of my unit members was an archer who was just shooting from behind my shield because I had a big shield at that point. It was probably a 4 foot shield, and that was we ended up holding that. That was so much fun. Like we won that battle, and we ended up winning War, which was really cool. Like that was a really fun event, and I think I'm glad that was my first one because I've never had an event that was quite like it, and I've never had an event that was just that much fun. There were probably about 500 or more people there. So it started off. This video is gonna be just me reminiscing about my very first LARP event. But it's better than what's going on in the world right now, so I'm not actually upset. Um, but so the way it started, it was myself, a couple of my friends from school. We hadn't officially formed a unit yet, but we had kind of like been hanging out, and we're talking about forming a unit. This was back in the DAG days, the old DAG days, and I do not miss DAG. I definitely like Amp way more than DAG, but there's still some good memories I have from Dagger here. And but so like, the way it started is like, and all of us, we got one of our friends rented a van, or borrowed his parents' van. It was a 7-seater. It was actually when I first watched Lord of the Rings too. So that's kind of funny. But we ended up all getting to the field. It was probably about 10 a.m. that night because we stayed at the house of one of our friends' parents, which was only about 3 hours away from the location. So we drove 3 hours to get to their parents' house, which worked out, and then 3 hours to the event, which was fine. But we got there, and there was a massive field battle. So the way they used to do it in DAG was basically like similar to how we do ditch lines to kind of get teams set up. That's how they did it in DAG as well. Was they organized two sides to be about even as far as numbers go, and then just kind of let it divide itself from there. And that's how they balance that against. Very, very similar to how we do our ditch lines. But so we got that, and that was probably, by the time that was all together, it was probably noon, give or take. 'Cause I think we got there at 10, we had weapons check and such. And then at noon, I think, was when it started. Afterwards, it was just a 6 hour battle, and that was it. And we ended up winning. We ended up tearing up all over the place, and it was just really, really fun. Just honestly, one of my favorite LARPing memories that I still look back on really fondly. Like, I only remember a couple of people who were actually there because there were only like I think there were five of us from Toledo there, and I remember I think three of their names. So I mean, that dates it. We weren't super close because I ended up getting really close to a different group shortly thereafter. But that was just, we were there all day and we just had a blast. We stayed at the hotel that night, and then all of us still just like super excited, super hyped up because it was just a really fun event. I think my second favorite LARP memory was actually another Dagger Here memory. Back was, God, that would have been, I think it was spring 2012. So war took place fall of 2011. It was, well, it was like, honestly, I think it took place, I want to say it took place in like September. So no, it took place in October. And I had just been fighting for 2 months at that point. But my other favorite one was, so the organization I used to be a part, the unit I was a part of at that point had a leveling up ceremony, for lack of a better term, in which it was as much an endurance battle as it was a skill battle. And what it was a whole bunch of people got into a circle, and you orc pitted it, in which you had to win 3 fights in a row. If you lost a fight, you started back over at 1. But if you won, you won to the next person who was considered to be more skilled. And if you won, as soon as you won 3 in a row, you were great. Yeah, tic-tac-toe, and you ended up leveling up. So, in that event, in that specific like level up ceremony, I guess it's more of a rank up ceremony because there weren't levels in Dagger here, but there were like, you would like in your specific unit you might have a different title if you were considered to be a better fighter, something like that. And what I ended up doing is I went first, and I won 3 immediately. Like, I killed all 3 people within like a few minutes. That was the first time anyone in that group had ever won 3 in a row, your first 3. Which was just cool. Like, that was pretty awesome. But the other thing that happened a lot is, I'm sure you remember my old roommate, Jerry. Jerry was unfortunately never as skilled at fighting as I was, but boy did that kid have heart. Because he went around that circle 16 times. And he ended up getting in the end, but he refused to give up. He refused to stop. And it took him 16 goes around the circle, but he won in the end, and we were all super happy for him. So that was something that also never happened, was no one had ever gone that far. But that I think was the Battle of Baden Hill, which I do want to say was fall of 2012, or no, it was spring of 2012, I think. One or the other. I don't even remember at this point. It might have even been summer of 2012. I mean, we're going back 10 years, but I think those are my 2 favorite LARP memories from my old Dagger Here days. Amped Guard, I think my favorite Amped Guard memory. That one I think would have been we were at our sister park Kerbenog, and I ended up jumping in as an NPC.
Oh yeah, when you got shot in the eye?
Yeah, when I got shot in the eye. That was not the thing that I was super happy about. I did get shot in the eye at that point, which wasn't fun, but
I mean, I thought it was funny.
The time before then, it was myself and our friend Sean. And me and him, them?
Yeah.
Him, okay. I can remember if Sean changed his pronouns, but me and him ended up going in as wild boars, and we just charged. We knew we weren't going to be able to do anything, but me and him just like charged the entire line, and we wiped out most of them because they didn't know what to expect at that point. Eventually, they kind of like regrouped and killed us, but that initial charge was just super fun. I haven't actually done Amped Guard too much lately. I think the last time I really did much of it was shortly after you and Theo visited. I think it was maybe like 2 months after. But hopefully in 2023, in the end of 2022, as COVID numbers continue to go down, I'll be able to go back to those events and kind of have some new memories to make. So Tony, my question for you is, what is your favorite LARP memory you've ever had? Tony, I'll see you on Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday.
A day.
I'll see you on a day next week, Tony. Have a good day.